In this vector graphics tutorial, we are going to use Transform Again to make a grid of equally spaced keys. Transform Again will allow us to make very precise movements while keeping everything else the same. We're going to do this to make a kind of iconic mobile phone, an old style Nokia that had actual push button keys. So we will want to be able to use gradients in this, and we're going to start off by making a single key. So I'm going to go to File and New. I'm going to make sure I've got a landscape A4 page, and then I'm going to start to create a single key. To do this, I'm going to use a rounded rectangle, and I want my rounded rectangle to be a rounded square. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down as I start to drag this shape. And I'm going to give that shape a fill that's maybe a darkish grey. I'm then going to Alt drag this shape here. So I've got a perfect copy of it by Alt dragging. But then I'm going to use the Shift key, and I'm going to drag the corner in so that it's just a little bit smaller. I'm going to fill that with a lighter grey. So if I take that and now put it up in the top corner, so in the top left hand corner, and that gives it a bit of a 3D look. It's maybe too far into the corner. I'm going to nudge it down with my arrow keys. I want it slightly off center, but you can see that it looks as if it's slightly 3D now. And then I'm going to take the text tool, and I'm going to drag a box out that's roughly the size of the middle of that key, and I'm going to put a hashtag in that. Now I want the size of this hashtag to be about the size of the key. So if I go to 60 point, highlight first of all, come up here and go to 60 point, that's about the size. I might get away with 72. 72 is bigger and much better. Okay. The other thing I want to do with it is to center it using this paragraph alignment here. So it's important that this is centered because I might be using a very thin 1, or I might be using a fat 8, and I want them to line up in exactly the same position on each key. But for the moment, I'll put a hashtag in. So I'm going to take this now, and I'm going to move it over the middle of the key here. That's one key produced, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to go to Object and Group, and I now have a single key. And then I can shrink it down and make it much smaller. Okay, so now that I have my smaller key, I'm just going to move this into the center of the screen and go to maybe 200%, so I see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I want to do is to make a grid of these keys. Now I'm going to take the Alt key, the selection key here, and I'm going to use an Alt drag to make a copy. When I make the copy, I want to make sure that this guideline is lining up the exact centers, and I just want a small gap between them. So that's my second key. To make the third key, I'm not going to Alt drag, I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Transform Again. I could have used Control D there, obviously. And that has placed the third key at exactly the same distance as the others. What I can then do is I can highlight this group of 3 keys, again use the Alt key to drag it down, and place it directly below. So directly below the center now. And of course I didn't have Alt held down when I did that, so let me just move these up a little bit and try that again. Hold down the Alt key, drag these down, looking for that green center line. And now, Control D, and I must have been slightly off center there because they have gone a little bit of a skew, but that's okay. So we have a grid of keys that are now neatly spaced by the exact same amount each time. I can now go in and start to renumber all these keys, and I'm just going to go back and check what it is that we're looking for. So it's 1, 2, 3 on the top row, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, star 0 hash is what we would expect to get. So we are going to use our exact copies to make our grid with that kind of numbering. So with the text tool, highlight the text tool, click in here, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm just double clicking on each of these with the text tool. 7, 8, 9, star 0, and hash is already correct. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out now. I'm going to go, in fact, choose fit on screen so we can see everything on the page. And what I now want to do is to make the mobile phone body. So I'm going to start off with a rounded rectangle. It needs to be big enough for the screen and the keys themselves. So I'll maybe start in the bottom corner here and drag that up and give it space for a little screen above. Of course, that's gone over the top of that, but that's okay for the moment. I'm going to change this to a gradient. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tilt the gradient ever so slightly so that it comes from corner to edge like that. Okay, now I can use my select tool. I can right click on it and choose Arrange, Send to Back. I then want to add another rounded rectangle that's going to go in this area here. And you see it's got the same gradient as the one that I've just applied. It doesn't look too bad, but maybe it'll look a bit better if I actually flip it like that using reverse gradient. Okay, one of the problems I have with my phone here is that it doesn't have much definition, and that's because I don't have a stroke around it. So if I was to apply a black stroke, it would probably look a lot better, and I'll do the same to the screen as well. So there we go, there is our mobile phone that has been created using Transform again.